All right, y'all, look, the internet just caught something that has the people asking a very serious question about Ilhan Omar. You see, before the Iran strikes happened, before the missiles, before the escalation, she posted something online that now looks extremely suspicious in hindsight.
Did Ilhan Omar warn Iran of a possible attack? President Trump, you got to see this. Is this the way that we can get this woman out of Congress? Watch this and let me know what you guys think in the comments. So stick with me. On the 26th of February, Ilhan made this post saying Iraq was attacked by the U.S. during Ramadan, and it was sickening to know that the U.S. is again going to attack Iran during Ramadan. The U.S. apparently loves to strike Muslim countries during Ramadan, and I am convinced it isn't what these countries have done to violate international law, but who they worship. Of course, Community Notes wrecked her because it's absolute BS. The Iraq invasion began on March 20th, and that was in 2003, and major combat operations were declared over May 1st, months before Ramadan that year. But that's not the part that I am most interested in. You see here, the date down here is 2/26/26. So when did the United States actually strike Iran? Look here. This happened on February 28th, 2026. So you're telling me that she made this post saying that we were going to strike Iran 2 days before it actually happened. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why I personally would not want to give these people a heads up. They keep saying, why don't you let us know? Why? This is exactly why. So let me ask all of you, do you think that a member of Congress should be making posts like that right before we are sending our troops, people's sons and daughters, into a very dangerous foreign country? Do you think that that is somebody that should continue to represent the United States? Let me know in the comments. Let me know. Do you think this was intentional? I have my ideas.
Yeah, I got my ideas. So here's where people start raising eyebrows. Ilhan Omar's post, she posted that message suggesting the United States might strike Iran during Ramadan. And then not long after that, strikes actually happened. Now listen carefully, right? Nobody here is claiming she had inside information, but when the timeline looks like that, the internet is going to do what the internet always does, all right? Start asking questions and raising them eyebrows, the people's eyebrows. And instead of those questions being answered, something interesting happens next, right? Some media outlets immediately pivoted the conversation. I'm trying to get it together. Yeah, they pivoted the conversation in a completely different direction, y'all. Watch this.
Americans were killed by their government, overseen by the Trump administration. And according to that longtime Republican, it was an avoidable, unnecessary killing of Americans, and one that we are at risk of repeating because he says this Trump official won't even admit the obvious mistake. Those Americans should not have been killed. We are gearing up tonight for the special coverage, and that's coming right up. Americans were killed by their government.
Now, notice the shift in narrative here. Instead of talking about Iran, terrorism, or the conflict itself, essentially, the framing immediately becomes the government killed its own people. And this is exactly why we Americans, we don't trust the media the way that we used to. We just don't. Because when there's a major international situation unfolding, you'd expect journalists to investigate what actually happened. But instead, the conversation turns into blame narrative before anyone even understands the full picture. Meanwhile, the reality of what's happening overseas is far more serious than any political talking points, y'all. Because while Washington is arguing, American families are getting devastating news. Take a look. Photos released of 4 fallen American troops killed in the conflict with Iran. Yeah. This is the part that should bring the temperature in the room down for a moment. 4 American service members, 4 families who's now lived experiences without them. It will never be the same. When geopolitical conflict turns into real consequences, the debate stops being about tweets and headlines, and it starts mostly being about human lives. which is why a lot of Americans we are looking at politicians right now and asking just a simple question, very simple. Are we taking this situation seriously, or are we just using it for political theater? Because while American politicians argue, there are voices from the Iranian community speaking out about something else entirely. I want y'all to listen to this perspective right here.
Democrats are brainwashed. I don't understand how you guys can support the killing of 40,000 people over the past 3 weeks, but yet when Trump bombs Iran, this is what they were asking for. They were asking to be bombed so that the government can go away. Now you guys are upset that like an elementary school of children was killed. Well, what about all the 40,000 people that were killed before? This doesn't make any sense. You guys are fake humanitarians, and you guys are brainwashed. It's delusional. You guys don't make sense. Democrats.
That's a perspective you almost never hear on mainstream television. Someone who understands what the Iranian regime has done to its own people, and is calling out what she sees as selective outrage. Point is simple. If people claim to care about human rights, then that concern shouldn't suddenly disappear when the victims are Iranian citizens living under that regime. Now, whether someone agrees with that statement or not, one thing is clear. The issue is far more complicated than a political talking point. It's way more complicated than that. And then something happened that caught almost everyone off guard. Because a Democrat senator stepped in front of a microphone and it said something that had people double taking. My God, Fetterman has been doing this quite a lot lately.
The top 55 of them were killed, and I think they just blew up 80 of the randoms mullahs, too. Which, I mean, that was pretty great, actually. So, all right.
Senator, administration officials concluded to...
This also says dude's going to get himself kicked out. I think they just blew up 80 of Iranians' mullahs too, which I mean, that was actually pretty great, he says. That reaction, that was surprising for a lot of people, I'm sure, because normally when these geopolitical debates happen, you'd expect the political lines to be very clear. But sometimes you see moments where someone speaks without the usual political filter. And that brings us to what might be the most blunt exchange about this entire situation. I want y'all to watch this.
But hold on, if bombs dropping on the nuclear program and destroying them last year didn't help move forward those objectives of deterring the regime, why do we think that suddenly this is going to do the same thing?
Because the people who weren't deterred are now dead. That's number one.
But this is Iran. Those people are dead, but there are other people. They've got plenty of people, Scott.
I agree with you on that.
Plenty of Ayatollahs.
There's no indication.
7 layers deep on
we are 72 hours into this.
You're making a good case for this.
There's no indication, as we sit here tonight, that there have been any political changes in Iran. So my question is, if bombs dropping a year ago didn't change it, what is the rationale for thinking that bombs dropping today are going to change the actual political dynamics on the ground in Iran?
Well, look, you're asking a broad question about justification and what we intend to do with these guys over the long term. The justification is, A, we had a huge problem with the ballistic missiles, and we did believe that if Israel, according to the Secretary of State, attacked, and they intended to attack, that our bases were going to be targeted. They were not willing to absorb that attack, so we attacked. That is what the Secretary of State has said. You can agree with it, disagree with it, but that is the justification. That's number one. Number two,
you think that makes sense? You think?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that the Iranians are not shy about firing ballistic missiles across the region. I was in Israel last summer and watched many of them in the sky.
Where do you stand, Scott? Are you for this invasion or not? You seem to be dancing around the question.
No,
you think this was a good idea?
No, I'm quite for it.
And
I think these butchers deserve to die, not just because of the missiles, not just because of the nuclear program, but for 47 years, Josh, they have waged war against Western civilization, against the United States. Their mantra is death to America. They have killed American soldiers, American personnel. They have maimed people, our people. And so if you want to go back decades or you want to go back 2 weeks, there's plenty of reasons to believe that those people that we kill being gone is good for U.S. national security. That's my view. I mourn, by the way, and we should say the loss of the U.S. service members who I think died in
if President
a
Trump
noble
makes
cause.
a deal with the next guy down in the IRGC and says, okay, just like Venezuela, we'll have the Chavistas without Maduro, we'll have the IRGC without the Ayatollah. Are you going to then switch and be like, oh, that's great, we're just going to do a deal with the Ayatollah, successor, and the next Ayatollah and the next IRGC, and you're just going to switch and be like, okay, we're fine with the regime because Trump said it's fine?
The president said his objectives are, and I think these are worthy, they're not going to have the missiles, they're not going to have nuclear weapons. If whoever becomes the next leadership in Iran says, okay, we're tired of being punished for missiles and nuclear weapons, that would be a good outcome that I think we would all be happy about.
Now, that answer, it went viral for a reason, but it stripped away a lot of the diplomatic language and said exactly what a lot of people believe is happening behind the scenes. Now, look, the situation with Iran is still developing. I'm still learning. There's still questions about how far the conflict will go and what's going to happen next. But the one thing the internet has made very clear is this: when politicians post things online before major geopolitical events unfold, people are going to start looking very closely at the timeline. And once the public starts asking questions, I'm telling you, they don't just go away. At the end of the day, Americans don't expect their leaders to be perfect, but they do expect transparency. They expect honesty. And when something doesn't add up, they're going to keep digging in until it does. So, if you made it to the end of this video, I want you to write timeline. I'm waiting on somebody to make a compilation of me doing. I notice I do that a lot. I don't know why. Ooh. Can I sneeze like normal people? I don't know why. Y'all be safe. Go check out somebody today. I know this video is short. Yeah, but I'm back and I'm off the plane and all this stuff. So I'm about to give me some rest, and I think we'll start cranking everything back up tomorrow on the 4 videos a day. But I love y'all. Thank y'all for y'all support. Be safe. Go check out somebody today. You can quite literally be saving their life. And peace.